Today, we're going to talk about 5 signs that your ex is pretending to be over you. And just so you know, these 5 signs aren't just conjecture, they're actually taken from real life experiences from our clients in our private Facebook support group and experiences from my own life that I've actually done after breakups. But if you're new to this entire process and you're just going through a breakup and are trying to figure out what you should be doing next, my biggest recommendation that I recommend to everyone who's new at this is to actually go to our website, www.exboyfriendrecovery.com, and take our Ex Recovery Chances quiz. The quiz is designed to give you an approximate idea of what your overall chances are with your ex and give you a few best next step tips. So if this sounds like something you're interested in and you want to take this quiz, it should only take you about 2 minutes to do, and taking it is really easy. Just look in the description link below this YouTube video and click on it. It's that simple. Okay, let's start talking about the 5 signs that your ex is pretending to be over you. Sign number 1, they refuse to pick up their stuff. Now, this may not sound like new news to you, but we have learned that one of the biggest interactions that you can have with your ex is when you have to do that essential exchange of items that you've acquired over the years together. So what's interesting is we've found that exes who basically refuse to pick up their things or do pick up their things but leave a few items behind on purpose may be having trouble getting over the breakup. But that's odd. Why would that be? Well, here's what we found. We found that exes who tend to leave things behind on purpose know that it will create an instant date for them. They're still trying to keep their options open. They're still unsure about how they feel, and they know that if they take all of their things, maybe they left that super awesome t-shirt at your place. Well, if they take that back, then they have no legitimate reason to see you again in person. So sometimes we find that exes who specifically leave things behind or take their things but leave a few things and forget them are doing so on purpose because they're having trouble understanding how they're feeling about the breakup, and they're still trying to weigh their options on whether or not they should be getting back with you. Sign number 2, they are insanely hot and cold. I would argue that this is the most common sort of sign that an ex is pretending to be over you. That ultimate being hot one moment and cold the next. So what does that look like? Well, there can be many different real life applications here. One of the most common we see is exes who block you and then a few weeks later unblock you, and then block you again, only to unblock you once again. They go through this pendulum of emotions where they're still unsure about how they should be feeling. Another really great example that we've seen a lot is an ex who will literally tell you, hey, we're going to get back together again, and then do things to make you think that you won't. Or they say things like, let's just be friends, and then they start talking to you and start making you believe that you're gonna go on all these really amazing romantic trips together again in the future, and then they're just cold all of a sudden. You don't hear from them, or when you do hear from them, they're not really engaged in the conversation, and then a few weeks later they flip back again. This is that constant pendulum swing from hot to cold that we find is so common in exes who are confused about how they should be feeling after this breakup. Sign number 3, they remove all your couple's photos together except one. Now, this one may initially sound odd. I mean, what's the big deal? It's just a couple of photos that you took together over your time. Well, what we find is exes who are doing that and leaving a few behind on purpose may have a reason for doing so. So what does that look like? Well, typically speaking, over the course of a relationship, you and your ex will have taken couples photos together. Sometimes hundreds, sometimes just a handful. Everyone is different. Well, we find that what happens after a breakup is it's pretty standard breakup protocol to delete all of those profile pictures or couples photos you took together off of their social media accounts. But sometimes we'll find exes will leave just a handful. Why are they doing this? Well, for starters, it's to elicit a reaction from you. They're still unsure about how they should be feeling. You're gonna find that's a common theme throughout this video, but they're also unsure about how you're feeling. So by leaving a few and deleting the rest, they can see if they're getting a reaction out of you. And if they're getting a reaction out of you, they know that you're hung up on them just as much as they're hung up on you. Oftentimes, this is enough for them to be held over. It's an odd sort of hang up we found over the years, but it's something that we cannot discount at all. And one of the reasons they may be still pretending to be over you. Sign number 4, they don't break their old routines. Relationships are often defined by their routines or patterns. For example, if you and your ex were together for a long time, you probably had a consistent text messaging schedule. Maybe that was just a few times a day, maybe that was all throughout the day. Every single relationship is unique and has different routines that have been established. Well, what we found is that exes who pretend to be over you when they're really not, and still kind of having that internal war about whether they should move on or not, will have a lot of trouble breaking from these routines. They've already drawn the line in the sand. They've said, hey, I don't want to be with you anymore. But if they still act and get into the same exact routine they were in right before they drew that proverbial line in the sand, it's a good sign that they're having trouble letting go. Sign number 5, you hear from their friends randomly. When I was 19 years old, I went through my very first breakup. She was a nice girl. We dated for about 9 months, but it was my first breakup and I didn't really know how to handle it. I didn't know if I wanted her back. I didn't know if I wanted to move on. And of course, I was extremely immature, and you're gonna find that's a common theme with breakups. So what did I do? Well, rather than actually communicating with her, I had my best friend communicate with her for me. Not saying the actual words, it was more kind of like spying. I would say, hey, could you call her, talk to her, and see where she's at? Now what's interesting is she did the exact same thing to me. She had her best friend contact me. So it was this kind of like cold war between the two of us where none of us were really physically connecting. We were just getting information from our friends. Now you're gonna find this as a common theme with exes who are pretending to be over you. Now when I say pretending to be over you, well, what does that mean? Well, it just simply means they haven't decided whether they're really ready to move on or not. I clearly, a few weeks after the breakup, when I was 19, wasn't sure whether I was ready to move on or not. So I had my best friend spy on my ex for me by communicating with her. Now, if you're in a position where you're noticing randomly your ex's friends are reaching out to you, they may be doing the same thing that I did when I was 19 years old. Now, those are 5 signs that an ex is pretending to be over you, but I am not foolish enough to think that I've covered every single one possible. If I've missed one, or you're sitting there and thinking, you know, an ex has done this to me, I think this would be great to add to the video. Simply use the comments below in the YouTube video and tell me about it. We love hearing from you guys. Again, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel. Every subscriber helps more than you know. And finally, for you, the best thing that you can do if you're in that limbo and trying to figure out what you should be doing next is to hop over to our website, www.exboyfriendrecovery.com, and take our Ex Recovery Chances quiz. Doing that is really simple. Just look in the description link below this YouTube video and click on that link. You will get the quiz, you can complete the quiz and figure out what you're supposed to be doing next and figure out if this is even worth pursuing for you. I'll see you guys next time.